What's up? I'm Matt Guff from House.com, and I'm here with Jason Henderson from Burton. Jason, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Summer flew by.
Yeah. Fast as always, but I don't know. A couple cold snaps. I'm kind of itching for some snow.
Right. Me too. And, one of my favorite things about this preseason is checking out all the new gear. We've been able to ride a lot of stuff last season, and now we're jumping into 2017. And these are the bindings for anyone who really knows about Burton stuff. These bindings are incredible. We have the Malavita, the Cartel, Genesis, and the Genesis X, and we're going to walk through each model and see some of the things that are happening. And Jason's going to just tell us about a little bit of everything.
Yeah, basically, we're kind of picking, Burton's kind of upper end, to really kind of focus on here, a couple new features heading in for 2017 on some really popular models. And these are, the most widely ridden bindings, not just from our team, but, a lot of riders out there, from other companies, they kind of choose Burton bindings because, they're definitely the best out there. They put a lot of R&D resources into figuring this stuff out. So, they're definitely some of the best riding stuff out there for sure. So
yeah, pretty much starting out, and I don't want to say on the bottom of this list because this is a super high end binding is the Malavita. Awesome colorway, kind of like corked out look. This thing is incredible. What's the story behind the Malavita? Give us some really deep insights on what it means to ride this binding and who this thing is for.
Well, really, this binding will drive any of the boards in the line. It's a very popular binding on guys on our team like Mark McMorris, ton of riders, Danny Davis. A lot of those guys choose Malavitas just because it is kind of that happy medium between a softer binding that's going to smooth out the ride versus a really stiff carbon binding that's going to be really edgy that some guys like, some don't. But Malavita is just one of the most comfortable, smooth bindings out there with a ton of response. So I love the binding. It's kind of my favorite.
Yeah.
Right now. So really, what makes this binding kind of tick is that it's a 30% glass loaded nylon. So composite there. So really good toe and heel edge response, but again with our reflex base plates, that'll go on any board out there, and then the EST, it allows for way more board flex, than just a standard traditional, base plate that kind of interrupts the flex of the board. That's just one of the many reasons why Burton bindings ride better. And also just, big focus on, making straps a lot more durable, but also just, our focus on sustainability. We've got, our completely injection molded straps. There's no waste that goes into the manufacturing of, any of these hammock straps and then the super cap toe strap. So you don't have to cut patterns and stitch them and glue them and all that. Mm-hmm. And plus they don't soak up water. They don't shred. I'm sure you see that, guys that are putting 100+ days on their board, the straps tend to shred after a while, and these are just as comfortable, if not more comfortable, but they're just way more durable.
Mm-hmm. And you started off by saying it's a very smooth binding, and that is the case. The Malavita is a very comfortable, smooth style board. You can throw it on an all-mountain board and rip and just have a lot, tons of fun. You can put it on a freestyle board or even a very jib specific board, and it's gonna be great because it is smooth and super comfortable. And you'll see that footbed is ultra cush. Now, even though there's a bit of plastic underneath your foot, it still allows for the board to flex more naturally because it's kind of cored out in the center, and there's a huge bed of cushioning. Combine that with those straps that are stitchless. And like you said, it brings down the manufacturing extras and things like that, and they're probably easier to make, and you can make them faster because it's a mold injected.
Yep, and then any waste that they bring off of they call them mold trees. All these things come in a big mold and they clip, and there's always a little bit of flashing or extras. They take all those extras, regrind them up, throw them back into the molds. So there's really virtually. No waste that goes into it. So,
Yep. So one other thing that a lot of people ask about is kind of the heel area. What can you say about that?
Well, this has what we call the heel hammock. So what this does is it actually grips the backstay of your boot. So you can kind of, I don't know if you can kind of see that from this point of view, but there's a little bit of a space between this hammock and the actual the actual high back. So what it does is it actually molds around the backstay of your boot. So one thing with Burton bindings is that they fit really snug, really tight heel cup, and everything just kind of locks in together really well with the boot. So you don't have to like crank the straps down very tight to get the secureness out of it. So less strap pressure, but still, the good response you need out of it. And the heel hammock actually kind of adds to that. It grips the boot a little bit more instead of having to crank your ankle strap that extra 2 or 3 clicks to keep your boot from moving around. In the binding, it just kind of, it helps with that. So basically the same, response, just with, a few less clicks, less pressure.
Yep.
So, and just, again, this binding, it gives you a really good foot roll. There's a lot of, bindings out there. People think that, man, you just need to be so locked into that board. The stiffer the binding, the better, but the reality is when you're riding, I mean, your foot has got to roll on the board.
Yeah.
You've got to have that, you watch skateboarders and you watch surfers, and they need that foot roll to get, to get the board to do what it wants instead of you're just being locked in. So
like a hard boot.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be able to roll around in there a little bit.
Yep.
So they've kind of nailed that. You need it. Stiff toe to heel, but you also need you need some side to side roll.
Mm-hmm. So that's Malavita, and then the next one is this is my favorite binding in the world, and you guys just blew it out of the water again for 2017. Not only is this a cool colorway, but you guys probably noticed there's a new toe strap and a new ankle strap. What's going on with the 17 Cartel?
So go to Cartel. This is kind of the other favorite from a lot of team riders. So guys that want just a binding that's a little bit more reactive. So you go to the base plate on the Cartel. It has a 50% glass loaded nylon versus a 30 like you get with Malavita. So basically what you're getting is the same rigidity as like a carbon loaded nylon, just without quite as much, without the price tag. So definitely stiffer, more responsive. It does go to the new, it's not a new strap, but it's new to the Cartel, is the React version of the hammock strap. So what this is, just larger wings on the outsides there, just really evening out that pressure, dispersing it over a larger area. But again, really compensating and cushioning. Instead of having like actual padding, this actually adds as the cushioning, and then you still have your kind of spine through the middle that gives you your response.
Yep.
So, and then the super cap again. So again, going completely stitchless here. So more responsive than what the Malavita. So comfort, still give you all the still be able to put all the power you need into a board here. But then definitely a little stiffer, more rigid here.
Yeah, and I love the hammock strap is awesome. The mid step where the upper section meets the lower section of your boot, that's a really important part of your boot for comfort. If you don't have straps that fit your boots correctly, you're gonna get you're gonna have bad circulation. Your toes are gonna freeze up. You're gonna get cramping. You get pressure points, and you're just not gonna have as good of a time because you're not comfortable. And that hammock strap is just out of this world comfortable. Like you said, there's no padding to it at all. It's all mold injected. There is a center spine to it, but the way that it's shaped, it really is comfortable.
Well, yeah, that's just the thing. I mean, engineered plastics is, you have endless possibilities. You can do anything with. I mean, there's you can make them soft, you can make them stiff. They're stronger than metal. You can change the way it rides. But really the idea behind an ankle strap, with us going with less and less padding, I'm sure you've seen over the years, are straps have really come down in thickness. Really the only reason why you have padding in a strap is to get rid of pressure points. Well, if you design the strap correctly, forming it really well, and just getting those pressure points out of there with the design of the strap, well, then you can reduce the amount of padding in it. So, in turn, what that does is you're not, when you go on your toe edge, you're not pushing through all that padding to get the strap to get, it to react. You're not, you don't have like this big marshmallow effect on the inside of your binding going on. So then what that does, it just gives you a little bit more direct connection with the binding. and you can ride less strap pressure.
Yeah,
So-
perfect. And then above this, working our way up, we have the Genesis and then the Genesis X. What's the story with the Genesis? Now, this is the EST dual composite style base plate. What's going on with the Genesis?
Yeah, I mean, basically, any one of these bindings is available in both the reflex base plate and the EST. So, anything Cartel on up, you will be able to get the EST version that has, the hinge in it. So again, allowing for a little bit more foot roll there. And the Genesis actually allows probably the most foot roll out of any of the bindings in the line because it is a two-piece base plate. So the bottom part, we use a 30% glass. So that really, secures it in there, gives you your toe and heel edge. But, this top part here is about an 18% glass loaded. So definitely softer. You get a really good foot roll with it. So it's, it's kind of like ollieing a skateboard. You can kind of load it, and it works really well.
Yep.
Has the same React hammock strap on the ankle, super cap, but then it kind of takes the heel hammock to a whole kind of different level here.
Yeah.
Where you got it almost looks like it has two high backs,
Yeah.
but you got your external spine here, which is actually a glass loaded nylon. So this is actually technically the stiffest high back out there because it is a glass loaded nylon.
Huh.
But so you get that really really good heel response, but it doesn't feel like it because you have this hammock in here. There's also we call it the spring here that kind of spaces it out between the high back, and again this whole thing just wraps around your boot and allows your boot to kind of roll from side to side in there. So it's a very comfortable high back. Like you're strapped into this binding, you just feel like you're standing on the board.
Yep.
You can't feel the high back. The straps aren't digging in. It's just all of a sudden you're riding down and you're just controlling the board. But so this is probably one of the most plush, tacky bindings out there.
Yeah. And then there's a big brother to the Genesis now.
Yeah. So wanted to make a little bit more of a responsive version of that. You go to the Genesis X. So basically the same high back, but then the base plate you go to a 50% glass loaded nylon. Or sorry, not glass. I'm sorry, carbon. So by going to carbon again, extremely stiff, but brings the weight down quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then also the cushioning has our super bed in it, which has a carbon fiberglass footbed on top. So really good, response there. But I don't know if you can kind of see that, but it's actually kind of almost like this dead air space in there a little bit. So the whole platform and the binding just kind of rolls around in there.
Oh man! Now, if you were to pick two boards for each binding that would pair up really well, what boards would you select for each of these bindings? I know that they can be
all
mounted
go well.
on.
Yeah, they all kind of go well. A lot of it's kind of what you like, but typically what we see, I guess. Like your custom X, custom customer, they usually like a little bit stiffer binding. Those stiffer boards need a little stiffer binding. So like a Cartel, then custom X, like your X or your Genesis X. So these are going to be more responsive. They go on those. And then, obviously there's a little crossover there, but then you got, Malavita, which goes on just about anything, but like your Easy Livings, your customs, pretty much anything.
Yeah.
So, and then I'd say, like your Genesis, like even a lot of the family tree boards, a lot of those guys, you're in deep powder, things like that. You don't need those crazy stiff bindings to get the boards to turn. So, a lot of people like the Genesis.
Yeah.
Because it's it's a super good foot roll binding. Just it doesn't have a ton of you're not just crazy locked in, and you don't really need that when you're in deep house. So you get into the family tree stuff, like the branch manager and gatekeeper, the just boards like that. Yeah,
you do have to say all of Burton bindings from the bindings that are kind of more entry price point than the Malavitas all the way to the super high end ones. No matter what Burton bindings you're on, they ride really, really good, and they're all comfortable, you know. And one other thing that you added was, you know, like you've said foot roll a couple of times, and that really is the case, especially with like the hinge system on the EST style bindings, is that it really gives you that kind of like foot flick style feel. Like when you load up your tail and you snap an ollie, you want to like kind of poke it out a little bit. Like you have the ability to do that, and it's such a cool and unique feeling that no other binding in the marketplace can give you.
Yeah. Like I said, they pay a lot of really smart people to work on this stuff, and they put a lot of money. I mean, you know, and well, you've been there, but you know, if anybody out there is, you know, ever goes to Burlington, you know, definitely go to Craig's. That's our prototype facility, and check that place out.
Yeah,
It's
awesome.
It's insane. You know what they do, just constant trial and error. You know, and you know, this is like, you know, they've thrown away more stuff than because they try everything.
Right.
You know, so.
Yeah.
But you know, you stumble across things. You know, like new materials. Like, you know, last year we put this on. You know, all the bindings, the flex slider. Just something simple.
Brilliant.
Completely changed.
So simple.
Yeah, so simple. It's stronger. You know, this material that you stretch it, stronger it gets, realigns the molecules.
Yeah.
Lifetime warranty, never had any issues with them.
Yep.
And just something simple like that little hinge there makes it easier to get into.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Jason, thank you so much again for stopping by and filling us up. Guys, if you need bindings, make sure to check out anything from Burton. Really, board, boots, and bindings, they provide it all, and they make some of the greatest stuff on the planet. Jason, thanks again for stopping in. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned, and make sure to subscribe below, and feel free to ask any questions. If I can't answer them, this guy can. Thanks so much.